The first time I came out to my dad, he didn't say anything. Not a word. Not a question. Not even a sigh. He just went silent. And somehow, that silence was louder than any rejection I could have imagined. It's strange. People think pain always comes with noise. Yelling, crying, breaking. But sometimes pain comes as quiet. It seeps into a room, fills the air, and lingers long after the words are gone. That night's silence became a sound I'll never forget. Before that night, I used to think I knew everything about my dad. He was steady, predictable, the kind of man who woke up at 6 every morning, drank his coffee black, and read the paper from front to back before speaking a word. He didn't talk much, but when he did, you listened. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to drive, how to never back down when something mattered, but he also taught me, quietly, what not to say. We didn't talk about feelings in our house. We didn't talk about fear, or love, or anything that could make us vulnerable. And we definitely didn't talk about being queer. Still, growing up, I worshipped him. I wanted to make him proud. Every decision I made was a reflection of that need. Until I realized that being his perfect daughter meant hiding parts of myself that were starting to feel too big to contain. When I first fell for a girl, I remember thinking, if he ever finds out, he'll never look at me the same way again. So I learned to live in halves, half-truths, half versions of myself, and that pretending worked, for a while, until one night, it didn't anymore. It happened on a night that looked ordinary from the outside. Dinner, dishes, the smell of rice and fish sauce still in the air. He was sitting on the couch, half watching the news. The blue light from the TV flickered across his face. I stood there, heart pounding, hands shaking. I don't even know what made me speak. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the weight of all the pretending. But I heard my voice break the silence. Dad, there's something I need to tell you. He turned to me, not impatient, just curious. Okay, he said. And in that second, I thought about everything that could happen next. The shouting, the disappointment, the possibility that I'd ruin everything between us. But I couldn't keep living in fear of a ghost version of his reaction. So I said it. I'm gay. 2 small words. But to me, they felt like a lifetime escaping my chest. Then, nothing. He didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't even move, just silence. The clock ticked behind him. The TV played something meaningless in the background, and in that moment, I realized that silence could break you, even if no one raises their voice. Finally, he stood up, walked to the kitchen, and said, I'm going to make some tea. That was it. No anger, no comfort, no words, just tea. And I remember standing there, feeling like the air had been knocked out of me. I wanted him to say something, anything, even the wrong thing. At least that would have meant he was still with me. Instead, there was only the sound of the kettle. And that night, I went to my room and cried quietly into my pillow, so he wouldn't hear me. Because for the first time, the house didn't feel like home. The days after were worse. Not because he was angry, but because he acted like nothing had happened. He still made breakfast, still asked how work was, still sat across from me at dinner, but the space between us felt colder. We never mentioned that night again, and that hurt more than any argument ever could have. I started avoiding home, leaving early, coming back late, anything to not sit in that heavy quiet. Then, one weekend, I came home to find him in the garage, fixing his old motorbike. He looked up and said, "Hand me that wrench." I did. He tightened a bolt, wiped his hands, and said, "Do you want to go for a drive?" It wasn't really a question. It was his way of saying, "We need to talk." We drove for a long time without speaking, past rice fields, past the small store where he used to buy me ice cream as a kid. Finally, he said, "When your mom was pregnant with you, I used to sit by the hospital window at night and imagine who you'd be." He paused. "I imagined you'd grow up strong, smart, kind." Another pause. "I didn't imagine this part, but I guess that doesn't mean I can't learn to." I didn't say anything at first because I didn't trust my voice. He wasn't promising full acceptance. He wasn't suddenly the perfect ally, but he was trying. And for my dad, that meant everything. Then he said quietly, "I don't understand everything yet, but you're still my kid. That's never going to change." I turned to look at him. He didn't look at me. He kept his eyes on the road, hands steady on the steering wheel. But I saw the corner of his mouth twitch into the smallest, softest smile. That was the twist. Not dramatic, not cinematic, but real. It was the moment I realized that love doesn't always speak fluently. Sometimes it stumbles, pauses, learns the words slowly, one awkward sentence at a time. For a long time, I thought that night broke something between us. But now, I think it just cracked something open. The silence I heard that night, the one that once terrified me, wasn't rejection. It was confusion. It was fear. It was him standing in front of something new and not knowing how to approach it. And maybe that's okay, because real love isn't perfect understanding. It's choosing to stay, even when you don't. Over time, that silence turned into small things. A text from him that said, "Drive safe." A note on the fridge that said, "Your favorite noodles are in the pot." A small, clumsy hug on my birthday that lasted longer than usual. He never apologized for the silence, and I never asked him to. We just started filling it together with the sound of new things, patience, effort, and a kind of love that no longer needed words to prove it existed. It's strange how queer stories are often told as battles, and sometimes they are, but sometimes they're about small surrenders, tiny gestures of hope that say, "I'm trying." If you're listening right now, and you've come out to someone who met you with silence, I want you to hear this. Silence doesn't always mean rejection. Sometimes it's just someone's way of buying time to understand what love looks like when it doesn't fit what they were taught. That doesn't make it easy. That doesn't erase the hurt. But it does mean there's still space for something to grow. When I told my dad I was gay, I thought his silence was the end of our story. But it was just the beginning of a new one. One where love sounded different, quieter, slower, but still real. So if you're on your coming out journey, and you're afraid of the silence, don't let it convince you that your voice was a mistake. You were brave for speaking. You were right to choose honesty over comfort. And no matter how people respond, your truth deserves to be heard. Give the people you love space to learn, but don't wait for their permission to exist. You are not a secret. You are not a phase. You are a story still unfolding, a story that deserves to be told, out loud, in your own words. If my story meant something to you today, if it reminded you of your own silence, leave a comment. Tell me what you heard when you came out. Words, tears, or quiet. I'll read every one. And if you want to be part of a space where lesbian stories, queer stories, and real voices like yours are seen and celebrated, hit subscribe. Stay here. You belong. Because sometimes the first sound after silence is the sound of someone finally saying, "I love you," even if it takes them time to find the words.